At Team Toyota, they've been selling and servicing new and used Toyotas in your community for over 50 years. And you can reserve your next new Toyota with them today. You'll get a realistic timeline, and even in this crazy market, they won't charge you over MSRP. Or don't wait at all. With over 75 certified Toyotas, including a bunch of RAV4 and Highlanders, you can drive one home today. And you can always trust them to maintain your current vehicle. Their service and collision centers are high-tech, comfortable, and will save you time and money. Team Toyota can help you go anywhere you want, but they'll always be your hometown team. Just visit teamtoyota.net and choose from 3 locations in Langhorne, Glen Mills, or Princeton.
Hey folks, and welcome to the Phillies Talk podcast presented by Team Toyota. I'm Corey Seidman, and I'm solo today. It's been a crazy, hectic day. It's around midnight as I sit down to record this after opening day, but it was an impressive showing from the Phillies, a 9-5 win over the Oakland Athletics. And, what stuck out to me was that the Phillies were true to themselves on opening day. They slugged in the lineup. They made a couple shaky defensive plays, including Bryson Stott at third base, who we'll talk about a little bit later. They almost blew a late lead. So it's like all the main themes that you thought might be attached to the 2022 Phillies presented themselves on opening day. Got to begin with Kyle Schwarber. Kyle Schwarber comes up, leadoff spot, bottom of the first inning, and demolishes that home run winner against Frankie Montas. And it was the start of a very productive day for Kyle Schwarber, who went 2 for 4, homer, 2 RBIs, 2 runs, and a walk. It doesn't sound like such a huge game, right? It's a good game. It's not an incredible game. But do you know that last season there were only 4 times all year that a Phillies leadoff batter reached base 3 times and homered? 4 times all season, Kyle Schwarber does it on opening day. And, in many offenses, Schwarber would probably be required to hit in the middle of the order because he's a power bat. But that was another benefit of the Nick Castellanos signing, wasn't it? That the Phillies could insert Castellanos behind Bryce Harper for protection purposes and still have Schwarber at the top of the lineup as a guy who's both capable of hitting a home run to begin a game or taking his walks. Since the start of last season, Kyle Schwarber's numbers out of the leadoff spot are absurd. He's at .304 with a .393 on base percentage. He's homered 18 times in just 122 plate appearances. So no, it's not going to be like that every game out of the Phillies left fielder and leadoff man, but it was certainly a great way to introduce yourself to the new crowd. And overall, it was just a strong day from the Phillies offense. 8 out of 9 guys had a hit on opening day, 8 out of the 9 starters. The one guy who did not was Matt Vierling, the center fielder who batted 9th. But Vierling himself had a couple really good at-bats. He lined out to right field. I think it was like 105 miles per hour off the bat from Vierling, just obviously an atom ball. And then he came up and hit a deep sacrifice fly to the warning track in right field, missed hitting a home run by a couple inches there. So top to bottom, a good day from the Phillies offense. And it's not like they did this against a number 5 starter. They did this against Frankie Montas, who had a low 3s ERA for the Athletics and is by far their best pitcher. Other storylines in this game. Aaron Nola started, and it resembled the type of outing we saw so many times out of Aaron Nola last season, where he was just absolutely dominant early. Nobody was touching him. Soft ground balls, strikeouts. I think through the first 2 innings, it was all soft ground balls and strikeouts from Aaron Nola. But you remember that last year, there were so many of those instances where Nola would be cruising. It would be like the 5th or 6th inning of a game the Phillies were leading, and guy reaches base, bomb, or guy reaches base, and then a string of singles. And that's kind of what happened to Aaron Nola on opening day. Phillies go into the 7th inning. They're up 6-1. It looks like it's going to be a laugh or a comfortable win for the Phillies on opening day against an inferior Athletics team with a payroll of about $45 million. But Aaron Nola put 2 guys on base, and he paid for it again. Seth Brown comes up. He hits that 3-run home run that chases Nola. And it made this game a little more difficult than it needed to be for the Phillies, who then went to their bullpen. And that was one of the most interesting things of the day to me. I know that, the offensively, those were, the fireworks offensively, and everybody wants to talk about this lineup, but the bullpen is going to play a large role in whether this Phillies team contends or not. And after Nola exited in the 7th inning, on Friday, we saw Jeurys Familia, Brad Hand, Seranthony Dominguez, and Corey Knebel. And out of those four, you know who looked the best? It was Seranthony Dominguez. Seranthony Dominguez pitched a 1-2-3 eighth inning. He averaged 96.2 miles per hour with his fastball, and he touched 97. So that's a really good sign. I mean, early this season, we've seen pitchers all around the league struggle with reduced velocity, probably because of the condensed spring training and the unusual offseason. But Seranthony Dominguez, his velocity is there. I mean, his velocity is at the level that it was at in 2018 when he burst onto the scene as this reliever who could take down more than 3 outs at a time. And, I've referred to Seranthony Dominguez on this podcast several times throughout camp as an X factor because, the Phillies are built around the back end of that bullpen of Corey Knebel, Brad Hand, Jeurys Familia. But if they can also add a fourth reliable bat misser to that mix, the ceiling of the bullpen rises, the ceiling of this team overall rises. So that was a really good sign out of Seranthony Dominguez. And then Corey Knebel comes in, pitches a 1-2-3 ninth inning himself with 2 strikeouts. Those were, really good signs. I would say that among the bad signs, right, it was, defensively, we saw what is expected to be a Phillies deficiency. We saw that play out, right, on opening day. And this team is not going to be a great defensive team. It's probably not going to be a good defensive team. They just have to make the routine plays. Bryson Stott had a couple of difficult plays late in this game, 7th inning when the A's put up a 4 spot. So Bryson Stott in his MLB debut played third base, batted 8th rather, and he had a couple pretty impressive at bats. He had a double late in the game, kind of made up for the fact that he committed an error in that 7th inning. It was on a ball that he charged, and it was not an easy play. It was a low throw on a ball that he charged, different angle for a guy who's used to playing shortstop most of his life, probably his entire life, and now he's at third base kind of out of necessity. Maybe not out of necessity, but because he won the job outright from Alec Bohm. But you really love to see that Stott came back and then made a difference late in the game with a big knock that extended the Phillies' lead. And that's something else that really stood out in this game was that a good offense does what the Phillies did on opening day. A good offense does not go to sleep after building that big lead. Think about how many times last season, years past, that we've seen the Phillies score early, right? So the Phillies had 5 runs through the first 3 innings of this game. And we've seen that story so many times where they score early and then they go to sleep. And it allows the other team an avenue to come back. And if it's 5-3 or if it's 5-4 late in the game, well, then anybody can win. But after the A's responded with those 4 runs to make it a 6-5 game, the Phils tacked on another run in the bottom half of that 7th inning. They tacked on 2 more in the bottom of the 8th, thanks in part to an RBI double from Nick Castellanos, who was out trying to extend it into a triple. Castellanos, after striking out in his first 3 plate appearances in his first game in front of the new home crowd, he had to enjoy that he was able to, become instrumental himself in what was a game-long Phillies rally. So the Phils opened the season 1-0. It's not unfamiliar ground for them. In fact, last 4 years, the Phillies have gotten out to pretty hot starts in the season opening series. They're 8-2 over the last 4 years in that first series. Of course, 2 of those were sweeps of the Atlanta Braves. The series continues on Saturday. It's Kyle Gibson taking on Cole Irvin in a battle of, boring, steady number 4 starters. Cole Irvin, the former Philly, who was purchased by the Athletics from the Phillies early last offseason. I think that was in January of 2021. Irvin goes out. He made all 32 starts last year for the A's and had an ERA of a 4.24. It was lower than that for a majority of the season. And Kyle Gibson is on the hill for the Phils. Kyle Gibson, a guy who, it was a mixed bag last year after the trade deadline. The Phillies acquired him from Texas. He had a 2.87 ERA in 19 starts at that point, which was probably a bit ambitious. Kyle Gibson's never been that good. He's never been a sub-3 ERA pitcher. In fact, that 19-start stretch with the Rangers last season, that was the best stretch of his entire career. He gets to the Phillies, 5 out of his first 6 games, really good for the Phils. I think he had a 3.16 ERA after those first 6 starts. He was averaging more than 6 innings per start. But like many other Phillies, Gibson scuffled in September, had an ERA of 7.5, 27 runs allowed in 32 innings. But what you like about Kyle Gibson is that he's going to eat the innings, right? You know that he's going to, at the end of the season, as long as he doesn't get hurt, you're going to look up there. He's going to have 170, 180 innings pitched. And that has real value, especially in a game where you don't see pitchers go deep at all anymore. And, despite the fact that Gibson's pitching the second game of the season for the Phillies, in reality, he is their number 5 starter. If you were to set this rotation according to productivity or based off of last season, it would probably go Wheeler 1, Nola 2, Ranger Suarez 3. Could even put Ranger Suarez ahead of Nola, Eflin 4, Gibson 5. The Phillies are going with this 5-man rotation out of the gate of Nola, Gibson, Eflin, Suarez, Wheeler, because Suarez and Wheeler were a bit behind in camp. Suarez had the visa issues. He was late arriving to camp. Wheeler dealt with an illness during camp after experiencing shoulder soreness earlier in the offseason. That's why the Phils are going with that rotation out of the gate. There was a little bit of Phillies misery leading into opening day in terms of, things can never be too positive, can they? I mean, Mickey Moniak had that amazing spring training, right? He hits 371, 5 homers, second on the team to Bryce Harper, really ends his spring training strong. So, of course, Mickey Moniak breaks his hand in his final plate appearance of spring training. It makes you wonder, really, why so many Phillies regulars were even playing in that final spring training game Wednesday at St. Petersburg against the Rays. It's not good news, obviously. It's a major bummer for Moniak, who looked like he was, poised to finally make an impact at the major league level. He was going to be their opening day center fielder because the Phillies were facing Frankie Montas, a righty. So you probably wanted the lefty bat in Moniak out of the gate. And, I mean, quite frankly, Moniak was swinging it better than Matt Vierling to end camp, although Vierling did have a good day at the plate on Friday, and it's going to be his job for the foreseeable future. Odubel Herrera, who's also in this picture in center field, is sidelined by an oblique injury. We're more likely to see him later in the month, perhaps early May, more so than any time soon here. So that's how the Phillies are going to do things in center field in the meantime. So Saturday, 4:05 p.m., Phillies A's. It is Kyle Gibson and Cole Irvin. The series ends Sunday at 1:05. And then the Phils have the Mets. That's going to be an exciting series. Zach Wheeler is going to pitch in that series. The final game of that series should be Aaron Nola versus Max Scherzer. Something to note is that Francisco Lindor, the Mets' high-priced shortstop, was hit by a pitch in the face on Friday night. He left that game. It doesn't sound like things are super serious. He might get a day off Saturday, but he'll probably be ready to go for that Phillies series Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But, man, what an exciting day. A lot of energy in the ballpark. I almost tweeted on Thursday night that I was like 100% sure the Phillies were going to score in the first inning Monday. And the reason that I felt that way is just because if you look at recent seasons, this team has had a flair for the dramatic early. I mean, you think about Andrew McCutchen, first at bat as a Philly, hitting the home run. You think about the year, I think it was that same game where Bryce Harper was intentionally walked to load the bases for Rhys Hoskins, who had a grand slam. That was early. That was right out of the gate. Phillies don't have a problem hitting early. It's as the season continues that things have gone the other way for them, particularly, obviously, late in the season in September. But, hey, this team's set up differently. I mean, 1 through 9, this is a force of an offense. And I know that Jim and I on this podcast have talked about this a ton, but when you look at the incredible lack of production the Phillies got last season out of the leadoff spot, where they had the lowest batting average in the National League and the lowest on-base percentage in the National League out of the leadoff spot. And then you compare that to a guy like Kyle Schwarber, who is among the biggest threats in baseball right now in that spot. I mean, it agrees with him. Kyle Schwarber is willing to work counts. He did that on Friday, extended counts, and he has the ability to do damage at the end there. So a good day for the Phillies offense. I mean, look, we've been here for 15 minutes now and barely even mentioned Bryce Harper's name, but one of the other storylines leading into opening day was how this lineup was going to be formatted. Interesting to see JT Realmuto in the 2 spot on opening day. There was some thought that could have been Gene Segura. Some thought it could have been Rhys Hoskins. I think that throughout the season, you're going to see them kind of cycle through those guys out of the 2 spot, depending on who's hot. Like if Realmuto sits, which he's going to do throughout the year, Gene Segura could bat second. And it's a pretty good option there, batting second. Didi Gregorius also had a single up the middle in this game. That's another major key for the Phils. Didi Gregorius hit 290 in 2020, led the team in RBIs with 40 and 60 games. If he can get closer to that, he doesn't need to be game by game as productive as he was in 2020. But if Didi Gregorius can hold his own out of the sixth spot, a 6-7 of Didi and Gene Segura, that's a pretty good bridge from the middle of the lineup down there to the bottom. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Phillies Talk podcast. We're going to be doing these frequently throughout the year. We're going to try to get to them every day, honestly. Some days it'll just be me. Some days it'll just be Jim. Some days it'll be both of us. Going to try to incorporate some of our Phillies pre- and post-game live analysts on the Phillies Talk podcast as well. So thanks a lot for listening. I know that was an exciting opening day for Phillies fans everywhere. Just beside themselves, really, after that Kyle Schwarber bomb set the tone on what was a high-energy day in South Philadelphia. So thanks for listening. Catch you tomorrow on the Phillies Talk podcast.